Epik Mellon Podcast. Conversations with the real humans behind broadband networks, cybersecurity, and the future of communications. Brought to you by QA Cafe.
Okay, hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Epik Mellon Podcast. I am Jason Waltz from QA Cafe, and joining me is Tom Peterson, also from QA Cafe. It's going to be great to have him on because he has a very unique perspective on a lot of things, and I want everybody to meet you. Not that they
Thanks,
haven't
Jason.
before, but as always, this podcast is brought to you by our employers at QA Cafe, and so the views expressed by myself or Tom do not reflect those of QA Cafe or its ownership. So that's the little clause that lets us say whatever we want.
Perfect.
Brought to you by our great products at QA Cafe, including CD Router, which is the industry standard platform for testing broadband gateways, Wi-Fi devices, and other customer premises equipment, and has thousands of test cases so that you don't have to build them, backed up by our world-class support team that's out there, helping you build better products overall. That's backed up by Passport, which is our similar product for IoT and smart home devices and set-top boxes and anything that an end user is using to do rather than route packets. And also on the network analysis side, which is Tom's wheelhouse, we have CloudShark, which is the way for your team to collaborate on network packet captures, work together on them in real time, keep your history, and be able to search for cool stuff and really work on them in ways that you can't really do just by downloading them to your laptop and using Wireshark. And then the power behind CloudShark, which is Packet Viewer, which we have turned into an OEM product that you can put in your own cloud-managed networking solution or cybersecurity solution. And it's really cool. And if you want to find out any more of that, you can find us at www.qacafe.com. Okay, so Tom and I have worked together for a very long time, intermittently, like not coincidentally, but a great number of us at QA Cafe used to work at the University of New Hampshire's Interoperability Laboratory, where we all learned networking in real time, almost better than our classes.
I would say so. Yep.
Right? Because I always say yeah, I went to college, but like the main benefit of anything that I got was the fact that we worked there.
Oh, the IOL was huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it changed everything. It changed everything.
Yeah.
But I never got your full story about how you got there. Like, were you one of the hires that was just straight out of CS, or were you doing something else at the time?
I took kind of a different route after high school. I actually worked construction for a while, doing masonry.
No, wait, that's what Jody from Brisk just said too. That's
No
what he
kidding.
did before he did networking. Yeah.
Yeah, moving bricks got me a lot more interested in college, pretty quickly. So I started at UNH on kind of an off semester. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Took one CS class, really liked it, heard about the IOL, and thought I'd give it a shot. Didn't really know anything.
So you started right away then, working at the IOL. Cool. That's cool. Yeah. So obviously, like the stuff we learned there got backed up by stuff in classes, but like for the most part, all the networking knowledge was all IOL, right?
All IOL. Yep. I had no idea what networking was until I started there.
Yeah. Right. And it's weird because it's like those programs do exist, but it's not like the default in a lot of places,
Right. For CS, you don't need to know all that much about programming, really. I mean, it should take care of itself if you make the right system calls and everything. So
right. I got a socket.
There you go. You're done. That's
You're done.
We learned that in networking class. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But hooking up core routers and playing with those, getting access to all that equipment was so cool.
It's so cool. And it's like I've said before on the show is that not to make the show entirely about UNHIOL, but the point behind it, and I think the point behind networking in general, is that it has kind of a low bar to entry, right? So literally anybody can learn it.
Hmm.
Like it's hard to master it. Like if you really, really want to know how to freaking design, Wi-Fi algorithms, then yes, you have to go get an EE degree. But knowing how networking works is something that you can just you all just have to do hands-on to learn it.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. I remember the first task I think I got was reading RFCs, and those made no sense to me. I was kind of concerned, wondering what I got myself into.
Just tell the IETF that.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
No, if you don't have any of the background, but then I remember firing up a sniffer, actually seeing the packets that they were talking about in the RFCs, and it all just kind of clicks into place. It's weird.
So true. It's so true.
So true.
Like having to see it in a PCAP is like totally changes how it is that you visualize how it works, because it really is just showing you the conversation.
Right.
That you can't just decipher that from reading the spec, right?
No. Without seeing a packet, I don't know. It's impossible for me. But
yeah. So when was the first time that happened? Do you remember?
It would have been in 2005. Yep.
Right. Was it what was it?
Oh, it was an IPv6.
It was IPv6. I
Yep.
was gonna ask.
Yeah, I learned that's the group I got hired into, so that's what I learned
Mhm.
first.
Yeah.
My V4 skills are probably still behind my V6 ones. Not many people can say that, but
No,
that's
not many people can't say this.
Yeah, that's what I learned first. So
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. And that was, so that was 2005. Then it was still, I hate to say that it was still in its infancy, but it was only 5 years old.
I didn't have it at
Right.
home. I didn't have it at home for a long time
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
So it was so cool to be working on something that is so new. It's not even out there yet. And
No. Right. And it's 20 years later.
Right. And it's still just barely out there. It feels like sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, have you guys, I don't remember the progression of those things, because you were there until, you were there until here, right?
Yep.
So what did the progression of that, how did that happen? Because I know there's been not really pushback, but sort of like a lot of hurdles that the real world has had to deal with in deploying V6. And a lot of it has to do with how the spec was originally designed and all that. But like, is that what it kind of has been over that time? Is it just culture? Is it just like?
I remember starting and we were only testing hosts and routers, and just at the V6 level, very, kind of basic. And it was right around when I was leaving the IOL, that's when we started doing the CPE testing.
Mm-hmm.
So for the home routers, and I hadn't seen any of them do V6 before. It's a lot more complicated than just a simple host or a simple router. Because it has to act kind of like a host on its WAN, but then a router on its LAN.
Right.
And that I think that was where we saw some of the most interesting failures. That's for sure.
Well, because it wasn't designed with that in mind.
Right.
Right.
And
now you have all of these sort of not band-aid solutions, but the transition technologies and all that stuff, and it's like, what was it that Tim was saying, where like the ways those transition mechanisms, the problems those transition mechanisms were supposed to solve actually ended up being the opposite of what happened, right? Where, what was it? It was like they expected V6 to be sort of in home and then V4 in the internet, but it actually went the other way around.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, so yeah, so you got into that and you started diving into all that protocol stuff, and then coming here, having all that knowledge of just constantly being able to look at that stuff all the time and diving right into what we were doing with CloudShark, like, has kind of like totally shifted your perspective on a lot of things too, right?
Definitely. Went from testing the protocols to working on, an application that shows them off, which was really different. But, I remember my interview coming in here. And part of my interview was just they pulled up CloudShark and told me to explain how it works and what it does.
Oh, good on them.
And that was great because I had seen, I've used Wireshark plenty. I did a little research on the website. I knew what CloudShark was. We had it at the IOL.
You would be surprised, Tom, over the last number of people that we've interviewed here, the people that don't look at what we do first before they sit down in that chair.
I've heard.
Really?
Yep. So I was well prepared. I was well prepared with the Wireshark,
right
background. But yeah, it's been 10 years now at QA Cafe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. You just got the crown.
Yep. Yep. The golden crown.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, in that time, we've sort of all learned a lot about the reality of packet captures in the real world, and whether people actually use them or not, and who uses them.
It's not too many people.
Well, which is weird, right?
It's weird to me because going back to, reading the RFCs and then looking at the packets, that's what taught me networking, was looking at the packets. So I don't understand how you troubleshoot an issue without going there first.
Right.
They are intimidating. Opening up Wireshark for the first time, seeing a bunch of packets can be overwhelming.
Oh, right. I mean, that's part of what it is that we've always been trying to do.
Yeah.
Is make it so that it's not.
Right.
Or at least that the thing you're presented with is in the context of what the hell you're even trying to look for. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a kind of interesting experience about how small that expert community is, right?
Yeah.
And kind of everybody knows each other.
It's very small and very tight knit. I mean,
yeah,
which is cool. It's really cool. Going to SharkFest was always fun. It's always great to see, the people that are there that know Wireshark already, the experts, and then also to see the people that haven't used Wireshark so much, and see all the information that they're learning at SharkFest is pretty cool. That's the Wireshark conference.
That's something that I've always been curious about, right? Is there are obviously people out there that are willing to learn this stuff, or at least have been told to learn this stuff, and are actually still learning.
We all are. Everyone there is. It's awesome.
Yeah. No, because we keep running up against whether or not it is something that people are going to continue to do in the future, right? And I've always theorized that part of the reason why it seems like not, but maybe not, is because there is kind of a steep learning curve, and the world is experiencing this weird reverse bell curve, right? Where there's super experts and total newbies and nobody in the middle.
Yep.
Right. And so it's hard to bridge that gap. It's really hard to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. So I'm that's encouraging, at least.
Yeah. I always thought it was really cool. Anyone out there that's looking to learn packets, going to SharkFest or go reading their retrospective. They have all the presentations on YouTube. There's so much information out there. It's taking the time to start looking at the packets.
Yeah. Well, so is it? It's obviously we know that you end up learning best when you're looking at that stuff. But I wonder where it is that people are going otherwise, right? And if tools are actually evolving to the point where, not that you're not going to need them anymore, but that you're not going to necessarily need that expertise anymore. And if people are trying to do that on purpose, I don't know. Right.
We also run into the issue where everything's encrypted now. So
right.
There's a lot less information you can get out of the PCAP when it's encrypted that.
Right.
they are doing some really interesting things, especially in the malware space, looking at, malicious network traffic. That's all encrypted, but they can still identify, they're still finding ways to identify bad actors.
Right.
They
Just by
can
like patterns.
patterns, what they negotiate when they're negotiating the encryption.
Right.
Um,
Right.
certain malware families do it a certain way, so they can just say that's probably malware. No one else does TLS encryption quite like this. So,
Well, actually, no. So that's a great segue, because over the course of the time that you've been here, and knowing just what you've known about networking, you have basically by accident become dived completely into cybersecurity stuff, right?
somehow, I'm not really sure how.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because I feel like you've found that rewarding.
so rewarding, so rewarding. I'm trying to remember where it really started, but it was probably at a Shark Fest.
Hmm.
And there's a great website out there, malwaretrafficanalysis.net.
Hmm.
The person who runs that works for Palo Alto, really nice guy. And he just gets malicious email attachments, things like that, executes them in a sandbox, and then posts the captures online. So you get to see what it's actually doing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and it's just really fun to see what's out there. Um, I've set up a honeypot once that would just sit and listen for connections on the internet and was always capturing. And looking at what that little sensor sees is fascinating. Like there's
Really,
scans constantly.
really.
Yep, people trying to figure out what sort of server you are. You know, um, and yeah, I got a lot of traffic that way. It-
Well, and it's mostly bots upon bots upon bots, right?
yep, yep, tons of just and then there's companies out there that are always scanning the internet too. So
Mhm.
there's some good ones out there too.
Right.
But yeah, I've just found it fascinating, and it's so interesting to see the crazy ways they come up with to hide their traffic, to
Hmm.
steal data without being detected.
Right. 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 Like what? Like what?
Um, like communicating using DNS packets, so they can hide information that way. So your firewalls and security systems aren't set up to look for that. Um,
Wow.
until someone does it first. Then
Right. 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 Right.
once someone does it, then they can write a signature,
Right.
for it and detect it. But the novel stuff, ICMP, just echo requests and replies containing malicious data. Um,
Hmm. Oh, so they're putting it in sort of the extraneous details. Is that what they're doing?
yep, yep.
Huh.
Just
All that. All
stuff that no one's traditionally going to look there for
right.
data being sent. Um,
Huh.
yeah,
That's so crazy.
no,
You're
and
right
then
though about how it's like as soon as one person does it, then it finally gets a thing. But that seems like kind of an unwinnable war of attrition.
yeah, yeah. The new thing is threat hunting, which is
Mhm.
you know going out and looking at what's going on, actively trying to find these things without using something like Suricata that has a signature to detect it.
Mhm.
Someone's got to
And
write
to bring
those.
people up to speed on that really quickly, the way that the way that bad the way that bad stuff detection happens most often, right? There's other ways to do this. Is basically there's a system that's scanning the traffic, and there is another application. In this case, Tom's talking about one called Suricata. And what Suricata does is it basically has this giganto library of what bad stuff looks like, and those are written up in a certain language using what's called signatures. And so that if the traffic has something that matches that signature, then it will flag it as something, and then you have to go in and kind of see if that was really what it was and all that kind of stuff. Um, so it's really cool, and it's open source and people are working on it all the time. You can write your own rules. You can do all kinds of stuff. Suricata is very cool.
Yeah.
But we didn't really dive into that until threat assessment, right?
Yeah, that was kind of when I first started looking at
Yeah.
security.
Hmm.
The first chance I really had to was when we had
Right.
that, when we started integrating that into CloudShark. Because that application, we have Zeek in there too now, which is somewhat similar, but it generates log files, so it's not quite
Hmm.
based on a signature. But um, those two applications are so cool and powerful, and so difficult to install and get working, and they're all command line based. So you start
Right.
running it, and you just end up with this big log file that you have to parse and go through, and learning what was in there is so cool. But
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
difficult tools to. There's a steeper
Well,
learning
and that's
curve in
what
the
I find
beginning.
so interesting, right? Because these are serious problems that
Security,
people are
yeah,
trying to solve. And the solutions that have come out have kind of come out in kind of a Wild West kind of way, right?
yeah,
Like even Wireshark, right?
yep.
Like that didn't no company made that.
No, no, the owner always says at the beginning of Sharkfest, sorry, not owner, the creator, Gerald Combs,
Yeah.
always says, I started this as a weekend project and it got out of hand. And, that was maybe 20 years ago. A weekend project that now there's a conference for with, hundreds of people in attendance. That's quite the weekend project.
But it's totally nuts, right?
Yeah,
Especially and with Zeke and with Suricata and all these things. Like it's very bizarre that these very important things to our lives have started and have been maintained, by the way,
yep.
in sort of a very open, very garage style way, right?
Community.
Yeah,
Just a community of volunteers,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is pretty wild. You don't see big groups of volunteers that often. People
No,
that
no,
are
no.
working on something because they're so passionate about it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a government. It wasn't,
Yep. Yep. I think Zeke came from a university. That's where that one
Mhm.
started. Um, I'm not too sure about the origin of Suricata, but yeah, it's an amazing community of people just constantly releasing new stuff, working on what they want to. There's no,
Exactly. Well, I think that in a way that's probably like super important
yeah,
because it's like that is the it's my theory about humans anyway, is that that's like our primary driver.
yeah,
You
I'd
know,
say so.
that's like, yeah, there's money and food and security and all this stuff, but the thing that actually like hits our lizard brain hard is when we have some is creation,
Yeah,
right?
yep,
And so when you have the opportunity and the drive to do something like that, it's like a drug, right?
yeah, no,
And
100%.
so, these people all dive into it and it's like um and I guess in a way standards are kind of the same way, but most of us are being paid to do those, indirectly. I
Yeah,
know a lot of people like if I suddenly wasn't working here anymore, I would probably still try to find a way to continue the standards work that I do, you know what I mean?
right, right. I don't. Yes, people are getting paid for it, but I think they're also volunteering for it at work, or
Mhm.
you know,
Right, right.
they
Or at
want to
least,
do it.
right. And in my experience, and this is, I mean, because you've been to the IETF a couple times, right?
No, I never made it over there.
Oh, you did. Well,
Nope.
so the impression that I get from there and from Broadband Forum and a bunch of other places is exactly what you're saying, where it's like, yes, there are a bunch of people who are paid to go there because they were told to go there to work on a specific thing. But for the most part, the people who are like leading stuff and driving it are not. Or they started doing it because they wanted to.
Yep.
And they were like, please, can I go do this? And then now they're still doing it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my experience at Sharkfest. A lot of the presenters there actually take vacation time off of work to go speak at the conference.
Yeah,
And
right.
they actually pay for their own hotel and make it like a vacation. But to go that
It's
far,
so crazy.
it's awesome. It's a testament to how the
It is
community
awesome,
is.
but it makes you feel like, because I've said this facetiously on many occasions, but like I don't think people understand how the internet is held together by like duct tape and if one guy who's running a server in his basement suddenly decides to
One mistake in your BGP routing table, and yeah, you can lose internet for a country. And that has happened just by a typo. I mean,
I think it actually happened like 6 months ago.
I think you might be right. But yeah, all
Yeah.
the outages and it's duct tape, and it's a wonder it works at all.
Yeah,
Sometimes
it is totally
you know,
insane that it works at all.
something that complex.
hmm
Yeah,
But it's kind of cool in a way because, I mean, for me personally, I have learned a respect over time for organized chaos and how this is going to be a crazy segue back into cybersecurity in a minute. So already, uh, for organized chaos and how when things are made that way, they're almost better, not because they're more efficient, but because they're more adaptable. So like if it's like yes, I joke that if something goes wrong, you bring the whole internet down, but like the fact that everybody knows that and knows how to get around it and how everything will self-heal in a very short amount of time and people will solve the problem later and it's not one group or one big company doing it, like is kind of the thing that makes it work, right?
yeah,
Yeah. And so the segue back to cybersecurity I was saying is that it's the same with hackers, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's like I was telling someone the other day, it's like you can certainly try to build the most perfect wall you possibly can. It will take all of your energy forever, and
Yep.
it still won't work.
You still won't get there. You still won't get there. 95% is a pretty good number. That's yeah. But yeah, I remember I was thinking about this on my walk in, but I think that's what got me into computers and this sort of thing was as a kid trying to figure out how to play video games on the computer, like how to install them, how to get them running. I would try everything to figure it out to play that game, and I think that's what did it for me, I guess. I
It's
don't know.
very hacky. It's very hacky. I
Yeah.
remember having to do that same thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Having to make boot disks to play Wing Commander and like
Yeah. Yeah, it was doom for me. That was my mother
yeah.
was not happy when she found that one on the computer, but but I figured it out, and yeah, and it felt good. Like
Yeah.
finally got this up and running, and that's kind of the thrill I get out of this stuff is figuring something out finally.
Right. Right.
Trying a bunch of different things and finally getting it to work. Whether it's a little hacky or not, depends
Right.
on what I'm doing. Depends if it's for me or if it's for here. But
Right.
Yeah, it's
And
that thrill.
I really do believe, yeah. So that thrill that really, really hits us strongly, right? And maybe not everybody, I don't know if this is mass generalization, but maybe everybody has it in their own capacity. But it's interesting because I wonder if, and who knows why it was that stuff was designed the way it was back when we were trying to play Windows games, but like, or DOS games, right?
Yep.
You know, you're somebody who's trying to sell something, a game, and you're like, well, we'll let them figure it out. But if they didn't do that, we wouldn't be here
Right.
because we never would have done that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you have any stories like this. I remember like not being able to sleep until I solved something like that, right?
Oh,
because
yeah.
I knew it would pop into my head at like 1 a.m. Be like, oh, I didn't try this, and it's
Yep. I think I solve a good majority of my problems while I'm walking into work. Like, it's just like all of a sudden, just, oh, that's what I'll do. That's it. And
that's a legit thing.
yeah.
You have to actually get your body moving to get your brain moving, right?
Yep. And like
Um,
taking your focus off what you're working on and coming back. Yeah.
that's actually. Did you ever watch The Expanse?
I watched the first season. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if if Amos says that in the first season, but he's like, sometimes to solve a problem, you have to stop thinking about it.
Yep. Yep. I remember at the IOL once working on one for a whole day, and then the next day coming in, looking at the code, and being like, "Oh, that single character shouldn't be there."
Hmm.
Then everything worked fine. Couldn't see that for a whole day, but
In the teeth, man. And AI, I mean, with LLMs now, it's a little crazy, just because, like, not that I feel like people are going to rely on them, but just as we're learning about it when it comes to analyzing packets, like you you have to understand what they do, and what they do is not code.
yep.
What they do is trying to tell you what you wanted to hear,
I like that. Yeah.
right? And so you have to take everything they give you and look at it after.
Oh yeah.
Right, because sometimes it'll be totally wrong, and maybe in the future it won't be. But like, I'm bringing it up because um, you're exactly right about those stupid small details, right? It's like it can actually be like one little error, one little like character. The LLM's not going to make that mistake, but it's it, it could do something entirely different, right? So it's
Right.
like maybe those stupid little syntax errors will go away, but not everything else.
No. No. Yeah. I've had my fun with those. They've been great for me for learning something I don't know anything about. Like instead of Googling, just like I was trying to learn some Kubernetes, and it's okay. How do I set this up? Where do I
Hmm.
start? And it helped me with a pretty good walkthrough. Kind of okay.
That's cool.
This is what you'll do first. This is what you'll do next. I found it useful there.
That's cool. That's cool. So it's kind of like, I mean, what people are using it for mostly is exactly that, then, right? It's like it's a internet shortcut rather than a, you know, because the analogy I always give is the recipe websites,
Yep.
right? Which are just a total shit show.
Hmm.
So it's like you try to find something, and it's like, let me tell you the long story about why this is great and how I got there. Meanwhile, you've had to scroll through 3 pop-ups and 40 ads, and oh, and here's the recipe at the bottom, where you can be like, hey, ChatGPT, how do I make blah
Yep.
blah blah.
Yep. Yeah, the ad blocker did wonders on those recipe websites for me.
God.
Oof.
Uh, no, it's cool, and it's it is kind of changing the way we do things, and we've been thinking about it a lot here in a way,
Yeah.
right? For those same reasons, because you brought up Zeke and Circon obviously too, but Zeke in particular, we talk about it as a cybersecurity investigation tool, but really it's a needle in a haystack tool, right?
Yep. Yep.
um, because it takes what it's seeing in the network traffic and be like, okay, you don't have to look at that. Here's what it was. Here's a set of things of what was going on, right?
Yeah. It's a log file. It takes all those
Right.
packets and summarizes them.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
very nice.
Very nice when you're looking at a huge PCAP.
Yeah,
That's where you
right.
want to start. Um, I'd love to see one of those LLMs solve one of my PCAP challenges, though.
Okay.
That'll be the day for me.
That that's a really cool experiment.
Mm-hmm.
We should actually do that and do it, not do it live, but sort of not hide the fact that that's what we're doing, and just see if it's actually able to do that. Take it to one of Brad to malware traffic analysis
Yep.
and see if it can do it.
Yeah. Compare notes with it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's pretty cool. That would be really neat. Which is really funny because we I was at the Broadband Forum meeting a couple times ago. They've been doing these town halls
Hmm.
around a particular topic, and they did a security topic. And one of the guys got on talking about, or no, it was an AI topic, but he was a cybersecurity guy, and he was talking about building AI tools that can, or no, he was talking about hackers using AI tools. Right? And I was like, okay, well, what happens when the hackers using the AI tools come up against the defenses using the AI tools, and they're just kind of fighting?
That's what it'll all just turn into, just AIs fighting each other.
No, but you turned me onto something totally wild that I didn't really fully understand, and it has to do with sort of the move to cloud computing. Is that it's it's very easy now for someone to go and just buy a hacker, right? A robotic one, right?
Yep.
I don't remember what that site was like, but you were coming across it and you were investigating it while we were doing some story. I forget what it was, but
Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely seen them being used to create all sorts of phishing campaigns. They've been, I guess, doing a good job at, writing spam and unbelievable things like that, which makes
Mhm.
sense. They're trained on, which ones they know which emails people are opening and clicking on, so they know what to
Right.
write, and it's pretty wild.
Yeah. No, I know it works because I see
Yep.
those things and I'm like, oh, you almost got me.
Yep. Yep. They usually get me. My
Yeah.
fiance is usually the one that can spot them in the images way before I can. But
It
yeah,
was a
it's
PayPal one
convincing.
I got the other day, actually,
Ooh.
where it really looked like it came from a PayPal email address
Yep.
and it told me that there was like a $700 charge. And it was like, rather than saying, pay me the $700 and having me be like, I don't think so. It was like, it was like a double agent. It was like, this $700 was a fraudulent charge. If you want to report it, click here.
Yep. I remember a long time ago, my mom got one of those and asked me if she should send them her PayPal password. And I had to ask her. I was like, "Mom, do you have PayPal?" And she said no. So, I was, "Well, what password do you think you would?" You know how it goes. But
I do. Well, it's crazy. And, not
yeah,
to go down an entire other rabbit hole, but we live in a very, very fast paced world. And you know, even stuff 5 years ago was different from now, right?
yeah,
And from some things, from our perspective, that's not a long time. And for some things, it is a long time. But when you think of it in the context of a regular human being and all of the tech, especially like somebody in their 60s or plus, and all of the technological revolutions that have happened,
that's a lot to keep up with.
it's a lot to keep up with,
Yeah,
especially when your muscle memory is designed for something 30 years ago.
yep, yep,
I don't know, man. It's
yeah.
fun.
It is.
I'm glad we like it. I'm glad we do it.
Me too. Me too. 18
Uh,
years, so I hope I like it at this point.
that's what I was saying on a couple of shows ago. Is like, apparently, but it is self-evident that we do like doing this.
We at least don't hate it, that's for sure.
Yes. Cool, man. All right,
Yeah.
dude. Uh, Thank you definitely for coming on. And I know there's probably a lot of people out there that have maybe always wanted to know a bit of Tom's inner workings, and now you do. So,
There you go. Yep.
um, and so definitely do hit subscribe if you want to hear more of this. Every now and then. I don't want to say that the QA Cafe episodes are filler episodes because I really do want to make sure that we go around and make sure that this is about humanizing us, right? Epik
Yeah.
Mellon is about humanizing networking people, especially us,
It's much appreciated.
right?
Definitely.
So above all, like Tom and myself, own the nerdy things you love and have fun doing them.